Hello everybody and welcome to my Stamina Necromancer PvP build. This is a bow 2H Stamina Necromancer in medium armor. It has got a lot of firepower and it has got incredible sustain. And yeah, we've got a whopping 65% crit rate on this build. So we've got a huge amount of crits coming out of this build with the Shadow Mundus, of course. And we can deal a huge amount of damage in a very short period of time on a spec like this. Now, this build is very fast and very kitey. So you're going to use your speed and your mobility to stay alive and just hit your opponents with those big combos as you can line them up. Due to the nature of this being a medium armor kind of speed-based build, I would say that it has a bit higher of a skill cap than your average ESO PvP build. But if you're a newer player, don't feel daunted by that. You can definitely still play and enjoy a build like this. It just takes a little bit of practice to get used to this kind of PvP style. Now, Necromancer on a build like this versus the other classes, in all honesty, Necromancer didn't feel like it had anything really special outside of the Blastbones burst, which is fairly similar to the Warden's Subterranean Assault. But you know, Necromancer's Blastbones doesn't work properly. The Subterranean Assault, at least every 2 seconds, it fires out the way you want it to. The Blastbones just sometimes does not hit your target, and it can make it kind of tough to make this build function if a big part of your burst just doesn't get to be included in your combo like that. That being said, when the Blastbones does function properly, the burst feels really strong and the build feels really good to play on. It feels fairly similar to what I've done on my Stamina Templar, especially with the Purge that we have on the Necromancer. So I hope that you guys enjoy this build. If you like it, hit that like button. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button. I've got more ESO content coming almost daily for you guys. So without further ado, let's take a look at that build, ladies and gentlemen. So, to begin, I am a Wood Elf on this spec. I think Wood Elf is probably the best race choice all around for a build like this. Orc and Khajiit are also good options, and I'll get into why each is a good option, but Wood Elf I picked because of a couple reasons. Number one, it gets the regen and the maximum stamina bonuses, which are both awesome for this build, and of course, it gets that bonus movement speed when we roll dodge, and that's going to apply to our mist form on this spec, giving us a 10% faster mist than if we went any other race. So for that reason alone, I think that Wood Elf is the best option for this build. That being said, this is a critically focused build. We've got 65% crit on our front bar, so Khajiit is an awesome option because you get to go that critical route. Khajiit also gives you all of the regens and a little bit of base stat across the board, which is going to be really good for this build because its max stat is a little bit on the lower side. And then Orc, of course, always a great option for the damage it gets and the max stat that it gets. It's going to get a little bit of sustain via its Orc passives, and of course it gets a little bit of max HP too, which is going to be nice for this spec. So all in all, I think that Wood Elf is the best bet, but the other two races I mentioned are really good options for it. You can play this on something like a Dark Elf or a Nord as well, but ideally you want an offensive stamina race or a really offensively focused stamina race for a build like this. Now, taking a look at our stats, guys, starting on the Magicka, we have got just shy of 12k Magicka. We've got 20.6k HP and 30k stamina on the dot. Now, the first thing I want to say is that I don't have any Undaunted leveled on this character. So we actually don't have super huge stat pools because, of course, we're missing that Undaunted stat. We're also running 7 medium armor, so the Undaunted isn't that important for this build, to be honest. If we had the Undaunted passives, we'd have almost 31k stam. We'd have just over 21k max health and just over 12k Magicka. So we'd get a little bit more stat out of it, but honestly, on this build, you don't have to get the Undaunted. It functions a lot better than other builds that go 5-1-1 because we don't need to take full advantage of those Undaunted passives. Now, taking a look at the regen side of things, I'm going to buff up with the pet and everything for you guys so you can see our fully statted regen on this build. Yeah, 856 mag recovery, we've got 200 health recovery, and 2,500 stamina recovery. We have got some whopping stam regen on this build, and not a ton of mag recovery, even though we use a lot of mist form. And the reason that I don't have a huge amount of mag recovery is because we have a pretty decent mag pool for mist form. We've got 12k Magicka, that's going to be at least 3 mist casts, And yeah, 800 recovery because it's the only magicka skill that we use. So we don't have to worry too much about that end of things. But the stamina recovery, it is our primary resource for this build. And well, Necromancer doesn't really get anything in its class kit that gives you some decent sustain back. There are some things, but we just don't have access to them on this build. So we're forced to stack as high regen as we possibly can. And yeah, that's why we've got that 2,500 stamina recovery when we buff up on this build. Really huge stam sustain, and I think it really helps pull this build together. Now, something I do want to mention is that we have the HP-based Purge, which is also going to save us a lot in the resource department, simply because we won't need to use actual resources in order to purge off negative effects. So that's a part of the sustain as well, but you don't really see it in the stat page. Now, taking a look at our weapon damage when we buff up, guys, 3,830 weapon damage on 65% crit. And of course, we have the infused backbow. So fully buffed, we go up to about 4.5k weapon damage on this build, on the 65% crit, on 30k stamina. Now, at a first glance, that seems pretty decent, but definitely not crazy for a damage build. But man, that 65% crit rate is really going to make some difference on this spec. And we've got a lot invested into critical damage. We're even running the Shadow Mundus. So some of our damage that we deal here, you guys actually cannot see on the stat page because of the hidden modifier of our critical damage bonus. On this build, we have got a 94% increased critical damage bonus. So our opponent's got to be running 6k or so impen in order to negate our critical damage. Most people in PvP will not have that value of impen. So we will be critting hard on this build, not only for our outgoing damage, but our critical heals will also be really strong as well. Now, our crit rate sitting at 65%. There's a few things I want to talk about with this crit rate. First of all, on our bow bar, our crit rate is quite a bit lower, and that is because, well, we've got a precise weapon on the front bar, and of course, we've got the finished Hunding's Rage set on the front bar, whereas the bow bar, we don't have the full Hunding set. So we lose out a bit of crit on our back bar, but that's not a super huge deal because this is kind of our combo set bar. On the front bar, we've got that 65% crit rate, and this is important for outgoing damage and our outgoing healing as well. Our healing rate is actually increased by up to 20% based on our missing health. So we have up to 85% crit chance when we're healing ourselves on this build. Now, our outgoing critical rate can be increased when our opponent's health begins to drop. But on our front bar here, we actually don't have any Gravelord skills slotted. So I don't take advantage of that passive on this build. But I do it for good reason. We just don't have room for those slots on this build. And well, I think it's more important to have that bonus to our critical healing, especially with Rally on the front bar, just to ensure that we can get those Rally crits when we really need them, allowing us to stay in the fight. Now, taking a look at our resistances, guys, nothing super crazy on this build. We are, of course, playing a high speed, high regen, high damage, medium armor build. So the resists are sitting at just shy of 19k physical spell resist on 2,400 critical resistance. Now, I have one more well-fitted piece than I would like to have on this build, so we should have almost 2,700 crit resist on this spec. But the resists aren't super crazy important. Like I said, you're going to be doing a lot of blocking, a lot of roll dodging, a lot of mistform, and a lot of purge to keep yourself alive. So having crazy high resists isn't really important for that kind of gameplay. And then taking a look at the Mundus, we talked about it, the Shadow. It increases our critical damage by 13%. It does not say it here, but I think it also increases the critical healing. Last I checked, it did, and it just doesn't show up in the tooltip here. Correct me if I'm wrong on this one, guys. And then finally, for the food, I've actually gone with the Lava Foot and Salt Rice food. And yeah, this is a really good food for a stamina build. I had originally gone with the Artaeum Takeaway Broth, but I felt like we needed a little bit more stam recovery on this build, so I went with the Lava Foot because it offers just so much sustain on this build. We've got 5k stamina and almost 500 stamina recovery from this food, and yeah, this is a really good food for a stamina build. I'm not going to lie. For what we're doing, this is literally the best food that we can run. Necromancer also gets a little bit more max health than the other classes, so we can get away with foregoing the max health buff on our food because, of course, Necro OP. And then for the potion on this build, guys, I have gone with the Essence of Health that restores health, restores stamina, and gives us that Lingering Health bonus. The Lingering Health bonus, I think, is very important for this build. The first thing I'm going to say is that this potion is a little bit more on the expensive side, and I totally understand that. But as this patch goes on, this potion will get cheaper and cheaper. More and more Dragon's Blood will be introduced into the game, making this cheaper to craft. As it sits right now, it's about 250 gold per a chug of these potions, so they are quite expensive, but they are well worth it. The big reason why this heal over time is so important is because we have hexproof as our primary purge. Hexproof, of course, costs HP, so having some viable heal over time is the only way to make hexproof really work on a necromancer. And yeah, rally plus the potion gives us enough healing over time that hexproof becomes a really good option for this build, and we can actually use it as a very effective purge on this spec. Alright, so let's take a look at the gear we're running on this build. So you guys might be familiar with some of the sets we're running here. This is pretty standard glass cannon medium armor speed sets, I think, for PvP. The first set that we have is, of course, Slime Craw. We've been here 1,000 times, guys. It is the best damage set for a burst build in PvP. We get the crit bonus, and of course, we get that minor berserk. We're missing the minor berserk buff on the Necro. Such a good set just to increase our outgoing burst, and of course, the increased crit rate, very important because we're playing such a crit-heavy build. The next set that we have is the Griffin's Ferocity. Weapon crit, weapon damage, and then when we deal damage, we get minor force and minor expedition. Yet again, a fantastic set for a critical focus speed build. We have got that 10% critical damage bonus, which is going to be around a 6.5% damage increase on this build, so really nice. And then the movement speed increase, also so important for survivability in PvP. We've got to stay mobile and we've got to kite things out. And this is, of course, going to affect our mistform speed as well, which is really good too. And then the next set that we have is the Hunding's Rage set. And I actually went with Hunding's Rage because Necromancer has a mix of poison, disease, and physical damage attacks when we use our weapon kit. So Hunding's Rage all around the best option for a spec like this. And of course, Hunding's giving you 2 times weapon crit in the 2 and 4 piece. Really, really nice stuff. And then that base weapon damage increase. Now, I had considered going for the Leviathan set, which gives the 5-piece critical bonus. However, I didn't want to go Leviathan because it is very hard to farm. And at the end of the day, Leviathan, Hunding's Rage, when you change out the stats between the Nirnhone Precise Greatsword, they pretty much have the exact same stats in the long run. So I think that Hunding's Rage is just the better bet because it's much easier to get your hands on. And then finally, guys, for our back bar, we have got the Black Rose Bow, and this is just going to give a little bit of extra damage over time to our primary stun, which is going to be Draining Shot on this build. Really good set, I think, just for any build in PvP that wants to use the bow stun, just adding a little bit more pressure to that stun, always great in the long run, helping you seal those combos off this stun with that extra dot tick. Now, talking about the traits on our weapons here, the Black Rose Bow, of course, is infused with the weapon spell damage enchant. This is the way to go for a back bar on a medium armor burst build. You just get a lot of extra firepower out of this, and we're going to be doing a lot of poking with our bow before we hit with the Greatsword. We set the combo on our bow bar, so we should have this up almost all the time while in combat. Now, the Greatsword, I've actually gone with Precise. And I picked Precise because we are playing such a critical damage focused build. I think Precise was definitely the way to go. The mix of that with the Shadow Mundus, it just gives us a huge amount of outgoing damage on this spec and outgoing healing power as well. So I think it meshes really, really well with the Necromancer, who benefits a lot from that increased crit as well. And then for the enchant, I went with the reduced physical spell resist on the target. I really like this because on this build, we actually have around 6k penetration, physical penetration when we're all buffed up. Plus this is 7.5k penetration when we debuff the target as well. Really nice stuff, I think, for the Necromancer because we have really nice base damage, really nice critical damage, and then that bit of penetration is just going to help push everything further and bring the burst together on this build. This is honestly probably one of the hardest hitting builds that I've ever played, and yeah, I thought the penetration increase was a great option because let's just hit harder. And then finally, guys, for the jewelry, I have gone with all infused and the weapon damage. Because, of course, this is the crafted Hunding's Rage jewelry, it is very easy to get some infused stuff, much cheaper than transmuting some already existing jewelry. Upgrading it to purple, of course, is going to cost you a pretty penny, but I think it's worth it if you want to play this build high-end. Purple, at least, is going to be really nice just to give you that big infused weapon damage bonus. And weapon damage goes so far on a medium armor build, so we really utilize that well on this spec. And then for the gear, guys, we have gone with a mix of impenetrable and well-fitted. I have got 3 well-fitted and 4 impen. I would preferably run 5 impen and 3 well-fitted. I just didn't have the gear traits myself, and I didn't want to spend the money to put together another piece of gear for this spec. And then for the enchants on it, it is full tri-stat Hacky Joe. Now, this is the one part that is very important for this build, especially if you're running the Lavafoot Saltrice. This is going to give you the additional health that you need and the additional Magicka pool that you need on this build. I know that we don't have the hugest Magicka regen, but having that bigger pool just allows our regen to work harder. We're not getting regen ticks where we're not getting that resource back, so it's really important, I think, to have around that 12k Magicka pool on a build like this. And the max health, man, goes a long way. Of course, we get a little bit of maximum stamina, which is great as well, but we're sitting at that 30k benchmark, which is pretty sweet, I think, for a build like this. I'm used to running them on more around the 27k stam mark, so I do like that we have at least 30k on this spec. Alright guys, so let's take a look at the abilities we're running on this build, and we're going to start actually on the back bar here, and this is your combo setting / your defensive kite bar. So taking a look at the first skill we have the Skeletal Archer. Now, a big question I got a lot on stream when I was playing this build is why don't you run Poison Injection instead of the Archer? Well, the big reason we have the Skeletal Archer and why I would highly recommend you use the Skeletal Archer is because we gain 200 Magicka and Stamina recovery while we have the Archer summoned. So it's a big part of our sustain to have this Archer up, I think. The Blastbones does count as a pet as well, but the Skeletal Archer is going to be a more consistent pet, and you're going to get a lot more from it in the long run when you have this one up. The damage it deals is not too bad. We will, of course, have damage based on the bar that we're on. So if we buff up on our Greatsword bar, while we're on our front bar, we've got a 3.2k tooltip per every 2 seconds. So pretty decent damage out of the gate. And, of course, it increases by 10% per an attack that they land. So they'll increase in damage as the Archer's duration has gone on as well. So a really good just sustained pressure ability for this build. It helps us close in on those combos. It's not going to be the finishing move that Poison Injection is, but I don't think we really need it on this build because we've got a lot more pressure than some other specs that I've run that were similar in the past. Now, taking a look at the next skill, we have got Draining Shot, and I went with Draining Shot because, well, we needed a defensive and offensive stun for this build, and we have the bow out, Draining Shot plus the Black Rose Bow, really great combination, and I picked the Healing Morph because we needed that little bit of extra healing power. We have such a high crit rate, and we really benefit from getting those critical heals, so I thought Draining Shot would just supplement the healing power that we're kind of missing from not having something like a Purge that heals us similar to the Templar. So, yeah. Really good option, I think. You guys will see offensively and defensively Draining Shot really working overtime on this build, and it really brings this spec together. The next skill that we have is Elusive Mist. This is your primary mobility for this build. It's going to be access to Major Expedition. Your dodge roll, of course, going to give the Major Expedition too. 75% damage reduction while we're in Mist, and while we're in Mist, we cannot be hit by any disabling effects. We can't be stunned, immobilized, snared, nothing. But our Magicka recovery is disabled. So this is our only Magicka dump for this build outside of just keeping our armor buff up. So yeah, pretty much all your Magicka is going here, and this is going to be your lifesaver move. When you're in a situation where you're taking way too much damage or you're going to have a big burst coming in, Mist Form is going to save you from that incoming smack, and it just allows us to use our Magicka pool really effectively defensively on this speed build. Now, the next skill that we have is the Blighted Blastbones, and this is going to be your primary burst skill for the build. It's pretty much going to be the combo setter. The Blastbones is going to deal damage based on which bar you're on as well. So when you switch to the Greatsword bar, a 16.5k tooltip on the Blastbones on 65% crit, with 94% critical damage. We are going to hit people incredibly hard with these Blastbones. Now, one thing I do want to note is that the damage on this does not seem to be bugged anymore. It was bugged at the release of Necromancer, but they seem to have hotfixed it, so the damage on your Blastbones should be what you're expecting it to be. Now, Blastbones, of course, is going to summon the skeleton. After 2.5 seconds, he'll run at the opponent and explode for the disease damage. It applies the Major Defile as well, which is such a big deal, so if we don't get the kill with the burst on this skill, we can just keep resummoning it on the opponent and just keep a huge uptime on that Major Defile on our opponent. This really helps you close the kill on a build like this. This is, of course, a burst build, but this makes it tough for your opponent to recover from your burst, just meaning that your next burst, they're going to be lower HP, and you'll have a better chance of taking them down. Honestly, on the Necromancer, man, the Blighted Blastbones is really, really strong, and you will see in the footage just how much damage it can deal and how much it ensures that we can close those kills on an opponent. Now, the next skill that we have is the Summoner's Armor. This is, of course, going to be our primary armor buff for the build. And while this is active, the cost of our Blastbones and the Skeletal Mage is decreased by 12%. And it creates a corpse on the effect complete. Now, for this build, guys, we actually don't do any corpse gameplay outside of our ultimate. So we don't really need to worry about corpse gameplay on this spec. But the Summoner's Armor is just there for that armor buff. You could go for the one that pulls your opponents in. I think the sustain option here for the reduced cost on our Blastbones and the Archer is probably the better bet, simply because we want to have the best sustain possible on a build like this. But, you know, the pull could be pretty trolly. It doesn't really synergize well with a build like this, but you could throw some snipers off pretty hard if you have the pull armor morph instead. And then for the ultimate, guys, I have gone with Animate Blastbones, and you actually have a lot of options with the ultimate you want to run here. I picked Animate Blastbones because if we get in any group combat, this is literally the OP win group ultimate. We'll res 3 allies, and we'll summon 3 Blastbones, which will deal a huge amount of burst damage when they all explode on something. So you could potentially really mess somebody up with this ultimate, even if you're not using it to res allies. But the big reason I actually have this ultimate here is because it is a living death skill, and in order to get our healing bonus on this build, we have to have a living death skill slotted on our bar. So this counts, of course, as that living death slot. It's going to give us up to that 20% additional critical healing chance when our health begins to drop. And yeah, I think it's really important for this build, even on the bow bar, to have that higher crit rate, because the crit rate is really what we're relying on to keep our healing power up in PvP, because we don't have a ton of heals outside of the 2 skills and the heal over time. But that crit rate, man, it allows the burst heals that we have to really come through. So I think it's important to have that near death on the back bar here. But if you want to forego it for another ultimate, you totally can. A great option for this build would definitely be the Psijic Order Temporal Guard for the minor protection in our mist as well, and the ability to teleport back to another location. I don't have this unlocked because, well, I just finished grinding out the Necro, and I did not want to grind out the Psijic, but it's up to you guys if you want to try it out on the back bar here. I would highly recommend on a style of build like this, going for that Psijic ultimate. Now, on the front bar, guys, we are rocking a classic Greatsword Burst kit. The first ability we have is, of course, Executioner. This is going to be the finishing move for the build. And because we don't have any Gravelord skills on the front bar, I honestly think it's okay because we have Executioner. If we didn't have an Execute, I think it would be much more important to make sure we have those Gravelord abilities slotted. But because we have such a high crit rate already, Executioner is going to be such a good finisher for this move. We're going to apply some serious damage with it. Seriously, we hit some huge crits on players in the footage as well, so you guys will see that. And then, of course, the next skill that we have is the Critical Rush. Now, Critical Rush is going to be our primary gap closer. It has no minimum distance anymore, so it's actually a viable spammable for this build as well. A 6.6k tooltip, not insanely high, but because of all our critical damage multipliers, this is actually a more powerful Critical Rush than what you guys have seen from similar Greatsword Burst kits from me in the past. If we were to compare this to a non-Shadow Mundus, non-precise build, this would actually be around a 7.4, 7.5k crit rush tooltip. So even better than the burst I get on my Templar. I think this is really strong, to be honest. The penetration that Necro gets just built into his class kit from the Wood Elf as well, and the crushing enchant with this crit rush tooltip, man, we can hit people really freaking hard on this build. And the crit rush, of course, is also going to be an awesome combo setter at a distance. A bow partial charged or fully charged heavy into the crit rush, the light attack, the onslaught. We get a huge damage combo on our opponent, and we can really put some hurt into them. Now, the next skill that we have is Evil Hunter, and this is here for pretty much the passive Major Savagery slot. We don't get the Major Savagery buff from our potion, so it's important that we get it on our front bar here, especially on the front bar for those big burst moves and that rally critical healing. We must have that Major Savagery buff on this build. Now, we also get a little bit of weapon damage for slotting this on the front bar here, and that's also going to help with the build as well. And, of course, this is also a stealth detect, and it becomes a cheaper stealth detect if we keep it up over time, because it makes our Fighters Guild abilities cost less as we keep this detect up. Really, really nice because this build doesn't have any AoE attacks outside of Blastbones. This is just going to help us put down a Nightblade. If a Nightblade gets on top of us and we can pop them with the Stealth Detect, set the Blastbones on them, we can potentially knock them out really quickly. And yeah, just a good counter to Nightblade. We see a lot of Nightblades in PvP, so I think an ability like this works out really well. And then finally, for the primary heal on this build, we have got Rally. This is going to be major brutality buff as well, which the Necromancer is missing, so very important for that. And then, of course, that beefy burst heal that it gives as we keep the Rally up, and that heal over time. So the heal over time mixed with our lingering health potion, really fantastic on the Necromancer. It's going to allow us to use our hit point costing purge. And then the burst heal on Rally, when we fully buff it, it actually gets up to a 10k burst heal value when it's fully up there. And on 66% up to 86% crit rate, we can ensure that our Rally is going to be an excellent burst heal for this build. There we see the 10.8k tooltip on the burst heal. Really nice stuff for the Necromancer. And then finally, the last normal skill we have here is Hexproof. And Hexproof, of course, is going to be the Purge. We remove 4 negative effects from ourselves, and it costs hit points to cast. We've got the healing over time from Rally the Potion. It's going to allow us to use the Hexproof effectively on this build. Without having the Lingering Health Potion, honestly, guys, I don't think Hexproof is as viable. But because of the Lingering Health, it really helps this ability come through. And then while slotted, we get a 3% cost reduction on all of our abilities. This includes the ultimate, so I actually really like this on the front bar. It makes our primary burst ultimate cheaper, as well as all of our primary heals and damage dealing abilities as well. And then for the ultimate, guys, we have got the one and only Onslaught. You guys know how much I love this ultimate. Almost a 19k tooltip on this bad boy with our ridiculous crit build. This is one of the hardest hitting onslaughts I have ever played with on the live server. If you kill your opponent with this ability, you refund the ultimate cost, so you could potentially spam onslaught on your opponents. And then on top of it, it ignores the opponent's physical resistance and then grants you their physical and spell resist ignored for 8 seconds. So it gives you a bit of bulk, but that armor pierce, man, it just allows a crit build like this to have the full armor penetration, and we can hit even tanks for insane amounts of damage on a build like this. Really, really fantastic ultimate for any stamina burst build, even Magicka burst builds running Greatsword. This is pretty much the BIS burst ult in the game right now. All right, guys, let's take a look at the champion points on this build. So to start off in the Warlord, we've got 48 points. Break free, very important in PvP. Regardless of what build you play, you're going to have to break free at some point in PvP. Ideally, of course, you want to prevent the stuns from happening with block, roll, dodge, mist, but it's going to hit you eventually, and yeah, having the reduced cost on break free is just going to help you survive those incoming stuns. We've got a little bit in Sprinter for sprinting, but not a lot because we, of course, have well fitted on as well, and of course, we have the medium armor passives. A little bit in bashing focus because bashing is an important part of that maximum combo for a burst build. On a stamina build, the bash can deal quite a bit of extra damage, and it has a very high crit rate, so a little bit of reduced cost just to help ensure that we can land those big combos more often. In the Lover Tree, we have got 64 in Mooncalf and 43 in Arcanist, followed by 15 in Tenacity. Now, we've got a huge focus on Mooncalf because, of course, we have so much stamina recovery on this build, so we're really going to push that as far as we can with the points here. Quite a bit in Arcanist as well for that Mag Sustain. Our Mag Sustain isn't as high, but it's still really important to keep that Mist form up, and then Tenacity to give us a little bit more return on our heavy attacks as well. Now, taking a look at the important passive, we have got Wind Running, 2% additional movement speed, and increased health and Magicka recovery while sprinting. The health recovery is not super great, but the mag recovery is nice because we will be sprinting a lot, and that movement speed doesn't seem like a lot, but every little bit goes a long way on a speed build, so I think it's worthwhile for sure. And then taking a look at the Shadow Tree, we've got 44 Tumbling and 40 in Shadow Ward. Nice even split here. We've got to roll dodge a lot, and we've got to block a lot, especially on a build like this in PvP. I focused a little bit more on Tumbling because we are medium armor. Now, something to note is that I didn't put any points in Befoul. We're playing a burst build, so for the most part, Befoul won't have a huge impact on when we're getting the kills, but when we're fighting something that can survive our big combo, Befoul is going to help you out a little bit if you want to put points here, just giving you a better uptime on your major defile, or sorry, better effectiveness on the major defile from your Blastbones. But for this build, I really don't think it's worthwhile putting a lot of points in here because we just have such a huge burst kit to start with. Now, taking a look at our blue trees, we've got nothing in the Apprentice. Moving over to the Atronach, we've got the very standard 81 Master at Arms, 39 Physical Weapon Expert. Master at Arms, of course, is going to increase all of our outgoing damage. It all counts as direct damage, so this is going to be great for our outgoing burst. Physical Weapon Expert, really good to increase our light and heavy attacks. They're also very important for the burst on this build. And then that Tactician passive, when we roll dodge, we set an opponent off balance. Really, really good passive. The off balance not only is going to allow us to stun the opponent with a fully or partial charged heavy attack, but it synergizes with our ritual passive to give us bonus damage against an off balance opponent. So really, really good stuff. Now, taking a look at the ritual tree, we've got a nice even spread, but a big focus on the precise strikes portion of things. So 61 precise for that 21% critical damage and critical healing. We are playing 65% crit on our front bar. I think it's important that we put a lot of points in precise strikes just to emulate that. And then we've got an even spread, 40 piercing, 49 in mighty, just to give us that bulk incoming base damage and, of course, that penetration as well. And then the important passives that we get here are the perfect strike for a little bit more weapon crit, really nice on this build. The exploiter, of course, we talked about that. And then last stand for that major heroism when we fall below 20% health, just giving us a little bit more alt gen. In PvP, you're gonna fall below 20% health at some point, so you get quite a bit out of this passive as well. Now, taking a look at the red tree, guys, in the steed, we've got a pretty stacked steed tree, 51 ironclad, 63 resistant, 25 spell shield, 25 medium armor focus. Big focus on resistant here to reduce incoming critical damage, a huge deal for CP PvP at least. A lot of crits going around, and this is going to help bulk you up against pretty much everything. Ironclad, also really nice to reduce the damage we take against direct damage. Pretty much all incoming burst is direct damage, so this is going to have a big impact on the build as well, survivability-wise. And then spell shield, medium armor focus, just to give us those front heavy points to our spell and physical resistance. Now, taking a look at the lady tree, we've got 37 hardy and 37 elemental defender. Nothing in thick skinned. We have that purge. We should not be putting points in thick skin if we have the purge and we're actively using it in combat. Hardy elemental defender, just to reduce the damage we take from incoming physical and magical damage attacks. And then finally, in the Lord tree, guys, we got 32 in quick recovery for a little bit additional healing power. I actually like this spot here because, well, we have such a high crit rate, so that bonus healing power is just going to double dip when we crit. Really nice stuff. So there you go, guys. That is the build. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into that PvP commentary. So I've got 2 clips for you guys for the commentary. Both are solo PvP clips, which is what you kind of want to do on a build like this. I think it is really good for solo. Also good for group stuff too if you want to play in a group, but just because we have that high speed and that high mobility, the ability to quickly get away from a lot of opponents, it means that we can take this into world PvP and play by ourselves and hopefully survive. And right off the bat, we're going to set the Blast Bones down, hit him with the stun, and the Blast Bones coming in clutch, actually finishing off the target there. Really nice stuff. And we're going to roll away, go for the Hexproof to purge off the effects, and just reset on the next player we find here. We hit this Templar, we set the Blast Bones, go into the ultimate off of the stun crit rush there. Huge damage on the Templar to bring him down, and then right away, kite back behind these rocks here, picking up 2 nice kills there, and we're just going to see who's going to follow us over here. We try to get the stop on the stun there. He actually goes for the block right away and prevents his own knockback there, which is really good. And we do prevent the res, and that guy ends up releasing. So we're just going to reset our buffs at the bottom here. A big thing on this build, you definitely want to make sure to keep your archer up at all times. The regen you get from the archer is important, not only for your stamina, but really important for the magicka too. And I take kind of a weird fall here. Just go for a kite back behind the ramparts because we took a lot of damage off that fall, but the yellow don't pursue, so I work my way back out to the front here, and we open up on the next player that shows up. He's going to just shoot a few arrows at us. We send the Blast Bones at him, and right away you guys see Blast Bones just not doing what it needs to do. The enemy player just backs up and backpedals, and Blast Bones just does not work. I really hope that ZeniMax fixes some stuff with Necromancer. I'm uploading this video prior to the release on console, so I hope at least by the time this hits console, we're going to see some fixes on some of these skills. There we see Blast Bones actually makes it to the target, and he ends up blocking it, and we don't finish him off with that combo. and a blue player comes in to start attacking the yellow as well. So we're going to leave the blue player alone and then go right away on top of this next archer here. We hit him with a nice blast bones. I try to go for the ultimate, and he does a great job dodging the ultimate there, and the Nightblade right away is just going to kite his way back inside here. And this other Dragon Knight, he attacks me a little bit here, but I don't want to fight him, so I'm just going to bump him with the knockback really quick, go for my purge, remove the negative effects, and just kite out a little bit and just see if he will be friendly with me. We've got a lot more AD coming out of this keep here, and right away the enemy Necromancer throwing the skulls at me. We've got the snipers on us as well, the crit rush in there. We're gonna roll out of that dizzy swing range, and then we're just gonna kite right back through them and work our way back towards this hill here, just using our terrain, moving around the group and trying to get a good position on them here. We set up the blast bones on this guy here. Unfortunately, blast bones just not doing it yet again, and we're gonna have to kite back out behind the tree. The enemy Necromancer putting a lot of pressure on us, making sure to use our purge, etc. But the enemy Necro's not watching his HP bar. We're going to quickly cap him off with the Greatsword ultimate there, and then go right away back on top of this enemy Ranger here. She does a good job dodging our initial attack, but I hit her with the Greatsword ult, try to go for the executes, and she responds with some really strong heals, getting the healing from the Magicka Necro's pet there too as well. So we're just going to kite back behind the rocks here, reset our buffs. We're a little bit lower on resource after that engagement, so just give ourselves a little bit of time to refresh and just reopen, get a good stun off on this guy here. I try to go for the finish. We take the leap from the enemy player, but we manage to get the Blast Bones kill yet again, guys. Like I said, when Blast Bones works, it works so well. But when it doesn't work, we're just not getting that burst that we need, and we're just going to keep on kiting these guys out. I don't really want to jump on top of the resource when there's so many yellow, and we're fairly low on resource still here after going in on very low resource engagements to try to get those kills. This guy hits us with the Javelin. We're just going to wait out the Javelin, hit him with our stun. The Blast Bones hits him. Huge damage there. We get him with the Execute, and now we've got this last Nightblade here. An enemy Nightblade also dropping the snipes. Blast Bones again coming in clutch. We take another nasty stun, and we're forced to mist out of here. We're just very low on stamina after all this kind of more open field engagement. Definitely we excel with a little bit more terrain, but nonetheless we do manage to take that fight home. Alright, so for the next fight, we have got a little bit of 1vx/2vx on the Necromancer. I try to go for the burst on these guys here. My Blast Bones ends up hitting the wrong player, so we don't manage to get the kill on that enemy player there. And right away, we've got a lot of yellow chasing us here. We're just going to go for the purges, go for our mist form, and work our way out of here. And in this clip, I'm actually running the Artaeum Takeaway Broth, so we've got a little bit less stamina recovery in this clip than the previous one. And I think in this fight, you do see that little discrepancy of like 200 to 300 stamina recovery. It makes a bit of a difference, and I think it is better to go for the more sustain, just from my experience playing this on the live server. But right away, we're going to dot this guy up, go for the crit rush on top of him, finish him off with the Executioner, and Blast Bones again just did nothing there. We had the height on the hill there, and Blast Bones just doesn't seem to be able to jump off of things. It has to walk around them, so it ended up doing nothing. And right away, we're going to open up on this enemy player behind us here. We set the Blast Bones down. Blast Bones jumps on top of him as we hit him with our combo there. We get a nice clean kill on him, and the friendly player here also coming in on his Templar, and he's going to start by attacking the Bone Goliath here. This guy in Bone Goliath, honestly, he's getting a lot of healing power from it, so I'm just being patient, waiting for our opportunity to kind of just reopen on him. And now that he's out of the Bone Goliath, we're going to set the Blast Bones down, and just look, Blast Bones takes so much time, so hesitant. We still managed to get the kill there, though. And yeah, if this footage is showing you guys anything, it's that this class has a lot of potential. We just need these skills to work properly. And right away, we see a lot more yellow players coming up the side of the hill here. The friendly player ends up going into the hill, and I go up the top of the hill. So we get a good split on the group here. Take a few snipes from the archers there, and now he's taking the aggro, and I'm just going to follow to the back end of the group here. Try to hit this archer with a nice stun there. Go for the Greatsword ultimate, and again, we did set the Blast Bones down, but it just did not jump off the cliff, so we weren't able to really capitalize on that kill there. And it's tough with the Blast Bones, I think, because I have to be aware of where they are, and sometimes I can't see it, and I'm just kind of hoping or expecting that it's going to land where I want it to land. The opposing players go for the big Necro ultimate there. I go into my mist form, great kite out of that. We're gonna hexproof off those negative effects, and then just do a little bit of a kite here and be patient as we re-engage with this yellow group. A lot of the yellow are not staying around to chase us. This friendly Templar player here doing a great job just kiting around. We're going to pick up a purge off of him as well and just stay around this hill here, waiting for our opportunity to just open on one of these guys here. We set the blast bones on this guy here, hit him with the knockback, and yep, yet again, blast bones. Oh, it did work. Blast bones coming in, just really hesitant to actually jump at him, but it did work. But I didn't end up going for the combo because I thought it wouldn't work. Honestly, looking at it, there we see Blastbones coming in clutch again, actually picking up a kill there, and we're going to hit this guy with the Greatsword ultimate into the execute, and we finish him off as well, just slowly taking down these yellow on this hill as they just continue to reinforce this area. I crit rush on top of this guy, try to put some damage, but right away, yellow player's behind me, so I'm just going to go into mist form, hit him with the draining shot, and this friendly EP player goes for the finish there. This guy's trying to res. We're just going to hit him with this stun right away, and he drops off the cliff. I actually follow him off the cliff, crit rush into him right away, go for the executioners, try to get him on the dodge roll there, but I end up pulling out, seeing a lot more yellow players coming in, and we're just going to kite back up the side of the cliff with our friendly red player here, who's also taking a lot of pressure from all of these yellow players here. The enemy Sork follows me up the cliff. We're just going to hexproof off the purge and block the rest of his combo. We do take the stun there, but the block's really important to mitigate the damage, and the hexproof's of course going to remove the curse damage entirely. And yeah, just waiting for our opportunity to open up on this Sork as he's kind of by himself now. I get the blast bones on him there too and go for the greatsword ult. Unfortunately, he had all his shields up, so we don't manage to get the damage we want on that combo, and we're just going to come back up to the rocks here with our mist form and reset our buffs. Very important that we keep that skeleton up to keep our regen going, especially the magicka recovery. Crit rush on top of this guy. The blast bones does jump him there, but unfortunately we take a weird slide off the edge and we go flying, and I decide, okay, we've got to split this group. There's too many, about 8 players piled up on us there, and I just kite my way back behind these rocks here, just looking for an opportunity to reopen. We see a lower HP player, hit him with the draining shot stun into the executioner after the crit rush. Nice clean combo to bring him down, and we're going to come back behind the rocks, reset our buffs. Still lower on resource, but hey, it's 1vx, man. That's the way it goes. We go for the crit rush on this guy. He enters stealth. I set the blast bones down on him again, and this guy unfortunately gets rezzed right away by the necro res ult, so there's nothing we can do about that. Blast bones, I just keep resummoning on these guys. Try to pop a few heavy attacks off on these guys here. Unfortunately, the Sork hits us with the fire staff knockback. We're just going to draining shot the first guy that comes around the corner, get a little bit of healing power from that as well, and I just kite to these rocks a bit, but then I decide, okay, we're not actually going to be able to make that distance with so many yellow players on us. Let's head back the other way. We kite right back through them, continuing to use our draining shot to not only stun them, but get that healing power on ourselves as well. And now I've got myself in a pretty good position, I think, but all of the yellow slowly converging on both sides here. So I just go for a little bit of a kite, bouncing back and forth, just trying to get them to all converge on this location back here. Get a good stun off on this guy here. We try to hit him with the combo. Unfortunately, he reacts really well. The enemies go for the alt dump as well. So I go into my mist form, just go for a bit of a kite back around the rocks here, resetting our buffs. And yeah, got a lot of pressure from these yellow players. It's going to be a tricky fight to take it home. So that is where I'm going to leave the rest of the fight to play out for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button. I create regular ESO content, so stick around for more. If you guys are interested in sending in clips to be featured in our top 5 PvP battle series, or if you guys want to send in a build to be featured on the channel, you can always send that to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. We are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers. They give me better ping to my favorite games, and they're free to try for the first 14 days. A link, of course, in the description below. No credit card to sign up, so if it doesn't help you guys, no harm, no foul. And finally, if you guys really love the show, you can always become a patron on Patreon. Without you guys, I would not be able to do what I do and create content like I do. So thank you guys so much for just being a part of this. I hope you guys enjoyed again. Have a great night, everybody, and I hope to see you next time.